Welcome back to Gameday Tarps podcast episode 20. We have the first round of football playoffs done, and there's only one happy guy left at the table. I guess first two rounds, but that's you there, Chiefs fan.
You got a Lamar Jackson jersey on, bud?
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. This is my backup. I don't even like these guys.
All
This
right.
is just here because I needed a jersey and they're still playing. But I hope they lose. I'll tell you that.
That's tough.
It is. I could have worn my Mahomes jersey, but I knew you'd be wearing yours, so.
It's the only team to cheer for, dude.
Well, I had the Bucs.
God, no, man.
The Bucs were never going to win the Super Bowl anyways.
Dally, I don't even want to hear it, bud.
Fine.
Buddy, go Lions.
Okay, that's a wagon, first off.
It's not a wagon.
Okay, Steelers fan, calm down.
So, I know that I said day one I knew the Steelers weren't beating the Bills. I knew it.
Buddy,
and I was going to be butthurt over it.
Buddy, let me know when Pickett can bring that franchise out of the bottom again, all right?
Well, he will not.
Yeah,
and if anything, Mason Rudolph ain't going to do it either. He'll make them mediocrely consistent. But you know what? You got to be happy. It's going to be since 1954, since the Lions last went to the Super Bowl. First playoff win in 32 years. You have nothing but good things to say about this team. Let them have this one. They deserve it. The city of Detroit has been longing for a championship.
Actually, you know what I'm kind of
say about the team?
I'm kind of nervous about it, honestly, because I'm pretty sure the last few times Goff and Mahomes have gone head-to-head, I think Goff's come out with the W.
There you go.
The Chiefs just look too good. The only team I think that could have stopped them was the Bills. And it just took a missed field goal to not let Josh Allen win yet again. A field goal killed them last year, and a field goal killed them this year.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think the last two times Goff and Mahomes have went head-to-head, so there's the high-scoring game that was like 56-50, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they went head-to-head either last year or this year, and I think Goff still came out with the win. So, I don't know, man. Goff might be Mahomes' kryptonite.
Could be.
Honestly, though, the last two times these two cities have battled for a championship was 2012. We had the Tigers and the Giants. The Giants, unfortunately, swept Detroit 4-0. And I remember that was one of my most favorite childhood memories was going to the Tigers game to watch that World Series. And it was heartbreaking, but you know what? Now it's the NFL teams. You got the 49ers and Lions. Who would have ever thought that the Lions in this day and age would have one win away going to a Super Bowl? So you know what? Yeah, it's a wagon. Go Lions. This is going to be redemption for the city of Detroit to finally get over that hurdle and go back to the Super Bowl.
I mean, I've been saying since day one San Fran's going to win, so I think the Lions are going to get to finally meet their match. I think they're going to get blown away.
Actually, wait, hold up. I have another point to add to that, so it's kind of a little off topic, but somebody was telling me that Green Bay is prepared to make Jordan Love one of the highest paid quarterbacks.
Really?
Thoughts?
No.
I say it's a stupid idea.
I agree it's a stupid idea.
He
has a lot more to prove before he gets that bag.
He's proven that he's a starter in the NFL. Like, he's in the top 15 where, you know, the teams that have their starter signified don't need him. But the other 15 teams in the league would, if he was available, take him in a heartbeat. But I don't see him being Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson. I don't even think Lamar Jackson is deserving of his bag. Like, yes, he's good, but he's so inconsistent.
Even that topic, though, too.
You know what, though? I would argue Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's been proving doubters wrong this season.
Just this season, though. He does that for a season, and then they just don't make it all the way, and then the next season, he's either injured, which is not obviously his fault, or he's playing inconsistent again. He just can't seem to keep it. Like, look at Mahomes, right? 6 straight years going to the AFC title championship as a starter.
Well, yeah, guys built different, but exactly. I'm also saying that Lamar Jackson's built different. Like, that's
one of the best rivalries in football, the AFC North, Ravens versus Steelers, okay? You don't mess with the Kings of the North. Lamar Jackson is on a mission, and he is going to the Super Bowl this year, and he is going to be a force to be reckoned with, him and his Ravens
I don't
squad.
think so. No.
Oh, I think so, buddy. This is
Not a
Lamar's
chance.
year, buddy.
No. Did you see the way the more dangerous? They just played a way more dangerous offense in Josh Allen, and they still held them. Dude, Josh Allen was running more than Lamar Jackson does. He was on his legs the whole game.
Here's the difference though, bud. Tucker's hitting the kick.
That's true. He would hit the kick to tie the game. Well, the wind took it, but yeah, he would.
Wide right.
Did you hear the commentators just before that, too?
No.
They were like, this team has all the faith in Brandon Bass. They love these scenarios for him because he knocks them down every time.
Jinxed.
Yep. Stupid commentator jinx, man. Why do they open their mouth? I was so sad. I was like, oh.
2 years in a row, you lose in the divisional round to the Chiefs. And that's
Isn't
just
that-
heartbreaking.
Is it 3 or 4 years that they've lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, though?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Like,
It's ongoing.
Allen's 0-3 against Mahomes in a playoff game.
yeah, like, and it's not by his own doing. He ran for like 120 yards, I think. He was crazy out there, but he just couldn't get it done.
The fourth quarter was just terrible to the Bills, honestly.
Yeah.
Just terrible. Well, even with Mahomes, he got 4 incomplete passes in a row to get the Bills the possession, but then they still messed up.
You know what though? If Kansas City gets booted out, it's gonna be because his receivers couldn't catch a cold.
Yeah. But Pacheco
And-
was playing good.
Yeah,
versus Buffalo.
Pacheco was playing good, but I mean like guys like Tony, like
I don't even think they threw to Kadarius Toney versus the Bills. I didn't even hear his name. It was all Rice, Kelce. They had some 84 who was a tight end, and then Pacheco. That's who they were going to.
yeah.
And someone else, but not. I didn't hear his name once.
Yeah, no, like Kansas City will probably definitely keep Rice. But I feel like if after this year, if like his receivers are dropping the ball near the Super Bowl again, like he'll probably be like, boys, we need to change the locker room look a little bit. Need some guys that can catch.
Yep.
Okay,
But it's crazy
so
that he could still bring a team that can't catch to the Super Bowl, you know?
Yeah.
That's wild.
well, and that's why Mahomes should be like, if not the most highest paid quarterback, because he's on a totally different level. When it's all
He
said and
was
done,
at
he'll
one
probably
point.
even be better than Brady,
He was at one point.
right?
And then Burrow got his bag.
Yep.
Well, and that's what I wanted to bring up earlier when we brought up Burrow. Was like, what a very disappointing season it has been for Cincinnati. You give him
He
that
was hurt
bag, and then
twice.
bang.
He was hurt twice. There was nothing they could do.
Well, that's
about
what
it.
just unfortunate, right?
Yeah, but their team, they definitely had a worse team this year, too. Like they were way less competitive.
But yeah,
But,
I mean, I back to Jordan Love though. Like I just don't see him being better than Mahomes, Jackson. I would maybe argue Purdy, but I don't know. Goff even
Allen.
CJ Stroud, Allen, Trevor Lawrence,
That's what I mean. There's about 15 guys ahead of him.
right?
When you like, is he better than Baker Mayfield? Like all of a sudden, Baker, like he was terrible. Don't get me wrong. Like for a
Joe
couple
Flacco.
years, but this year he played well.
Oh yeah, for sure he played well.
So
And-
is he better than like is Love better like head and shoulders better than a guy like Baker Mayfield, a Deshaun Watson?
I mean, didn't Baker Mayfield just kick him out of the playoffs though?
Well, he threw a last minute int, but there was 13 seconds left. He was just trying to make a play.
Well, and then you got the up and coming CJ Stroud too, right, for Houston.
Yep.
So going back to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though, then Riley, like I'm sure obviously you're very disappointed that the Lions kicked their ass.
Oh,
But
dude, it wasn't
who do you
even
got
that.
now? Do you have San Fran or Detroit going
I have
into
San-
the
I have
NFC
San Fran.
Championship?
I have San Fran winning the Super Bowl. I've actually said that since the beginning. I think San Fran's going to win it all. But the Bucs never had the team, but they went into the game without Devin White. So not having like one of the best linebackers in the league, who probably played his last game for the Bucs too, so that's over. And then in the game, Yaya Diaby, their backup linebacker, got hurt. and then they just started throwing to the middle of the field. And it was honestly like Todd Bowles, whose defensive coaching was getting outplayed very easily by the Lions. But the biggest dagger was Jamel Dean, the cornerback, went down. Man, they put in the backup cornerback. It was 6 out of the next 8 plays. They just put Amon-Ra St. Brown on him and threw directly at him. Just Amon-Ra St. Brown just went wild. He just was lighting this guy up. And it was just like, well, what do you do when you have like a bench rotation guy playing against a starter, and you can't keep leaving the middle open? And then he was just getting burned one-on-one. It was
Well, and
because they
you're
scored
also
3 straight drives. After Jamel Dean got hurt, they scored the next 3 drives. And the Bucks scored 2 out of 3, but because they didn't score the third, they lost.
and you got to think too. You're the road team going into Ford Field, which is the loudest it's ever been there since the construction of Ford Field, since the Pontiac Superdome. No, whatever arena the Lions used to play in, out in Pontiac, I think. But anyways, yeah, no, that's the loudest Ford Field's been, and it probably got in your guys' heads.
Well, Mayfield like seemed to thrive in it. He was doing like hurry ups and stuff. Once they got away from their game plan, where like they were huddle offense, they were just letting Baker Mayfield go crazy, just doing quick huddle up plays and hurry ups, even when it wasn't like near the end of the game. And he was flying, and he was hitting Mike Evans for big plays. He was hitting Godwin. He was making all these plays happen, but it just seemed like, yeah, it was their defense. They were literally Swiss cheese. Yes, they were injured, but they were Swiss cheese. And Todd Bowles, like the whole playoffs and the whole season, he's been the number 1 blitzing coach, and he just like backed off. He just was sitting his linebackers deep, and then they would just throw 6 yards and run 4 every time they got the ball in the middle. And it was like Sam Laporta had a crazy game because he just kept, oh, thanks, here's another 10 yards and 10 yards and 10 yards, because he had no one on him when he caught the ball.
Man, did you say Sam Laporta say that he's the next Aaron Hernandez? What a wild statement, dude.
There's like, there's probably 20 to 30 better tight ends in NFL history. Like,
To compare yourself to, that was
like you would
weird.
like, not to really make this any more obvious, but if you want to compare yourself to, like, because he's a big white guy, Jason Witten, would you not? Like,
well, if I'm a reporter, man, I'm looking at it and I'm like, what do you mean by that?
literally. Like, when you
Pause
going
a
to
minute.
jail? When you going to jail, bud?
Yeah.
Here's your court date, by the way.
What a weird thing to say.
Yeah, no
Even
doubt.
more reason for the Lions to lose. They beat the Bucks. Laporta wants to murder people, and they're going against the 49ers. So,
well, the Lions, they have Hawkinson too, don't they?
no, they traded him to the Vikings.
Right.
Wasn't it?
Right.
Wasn't that where? Or was it the other way?
No,
Did the Vikings trade
no.
him to the Lions?
I'm pretty sure Hawkinson's on the Lions, dude.
You're right.
TJ Hawkinson.
Is Laporta not on the Lions then? Am I wrong?
Laporta's still there.
Okay, so they have Laporta.
Does
and Hawkinson?
Detroit have
Hold up.
2 gnarly tight ends?
I don't think so. They're both starting tight ends for their teams. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let me look here. Let me look. Divisional game, Detroit. Sam Laporta was the one that was he's on the he's definitely on the Vikings.
Who?
Hawkinson.
Oh.
Yeah. I can go back to week 18 maybe. Find him. Oh, look at that. They played them. It's hilarious.
You know, I just think it's awesome though, you know, like
yeah, he's on Minnesota.
Yeah.
My bad.
Everyone loves saying that Swifties are all behind the Kansas City Chiefs now. Well, you know what? Eminem's got the Lions, baby. There's your celebrity right there, you know?
Actually, Kay, no, hold up.
The
So
Slim Shadys.
you know the whole logo thing? With the Super Bowl logo, with how it's so so in the bracket, they have every team's color in their bracket, right? And when they had the 2 finals brackets empty, they had the Detroit side blue and they had the Kansas side red. So I'm like, even the brackets are like color picked.
Accurate.
And they all match each team's color. And I was like, that kind of looks like a Kansas City Detroit final.
Which
And
would be awesome.
It would be sweet. Yeah, I don't really want to see a rematch of San Francisco Ravens, but
it's weird though, because
I guess, but
I seen a picture that Global TV here in Canada, they had a headline on there saying that
they're gonna
49ers Ravens
the
scheduled.
artists are playing at the 49ers Ravens Super Bowl final.
It's like,
Why
are
would
you really
put that
just
on
trying
a
to
news,
say,
dude?
yeah, like, are you really trying to make it obvious it's scripted here? Because the NFL is technically an entertainment business, not a sports business. They are considered an entertainment business. So WWE and NFL, well, obviously everyone knows WWE is scripted, but an entertainment business has no legal or regulations of being scripted. As a sport business, it's not, right? Like MLB, NHL, they're not scripted. But that just furthermore is the speculation.
I can't see, like, there's too many variables in the NFL, like, to guarantee, like, this guy literally catches a ball on his helmet or, like, does an insane out of bounds catch where he toe taps. Like, it's too hard to script that type of stuff. Whether you say this team wins or this team loses, like, I don't know. I don't believe it.
Well, maybe they just tell you to fumble the ball next play or, intercept it. You know what I mean? Like they'll have a backup play to a certain, you know what I mean? A backup to a backup.
If there were two pro leagues I could see be scripted, it is the NBA and the MLB, because they are the softest, they are the slowest paced, and they are the most star driven and easiest to control in that way.
Oh, the NBA especially, they're soft. They're soft. You bump a guy, he'll start crying on the ground. Exactly. And then you'll get a technical foul. You're suspended. Get out of here. You literally like throw the ball towards the ref, or if you like start name calling or point at the ref or point at the fans, technical foul. You're out of the game. It is so outlandish how soft and childish the NBA has become.
I know.
Like just, oh my god, I don't even watch NBA anymore because of it.
I can't watch it.
Well, and you know what?
Or even soccer.
And the fact that these NBA players have the right, like if they don't like something a fan's doing, they can go to official and be like, "Yo, kick this guy out."
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's stupid, man.
Like imagine needing load management.
You're gonna be a big baby because of fans like chirping you on the side.
And sometimes it's like things like monkey chants at the black players and things like racism and stuff, or even throwing things out. That is fine. But you're right. A lot of it is like, this guy won't shut up. Get him out of here. Like, he's just being a fan. You're at their arena. Like, what do you
you guys put out the courtside seats for a reason for these fans to, spend top dollar. You're going to deal with it, all right? You know what I mean? Like, you guys run maybe 90 to 100 feet down a court for maybe like, I don't know, like 6 minutes of a quarter, right? And then you got like load management for some of these star players. Like, give me a break, man. Talk about comparison to hockey players. They're hauling ass out there at 30 kilometers an hour, average maybe 22 minutes a night, and they're gassed at the end of it all. Yet they don't get load management.
You get paid millions to be a diva.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Millions more in the NBA.
Like, boys, if you want to become a diva, go to RuPaul's Drag Race, dude.
Literally.
Like,
I truly believe the only reason that these sports are ahead of hockey is because all you literally need is, let's say, soccer. You need a ball and grass. You don't even need nets, right? You can play. Basketball, you need a ball. You can practice dribbling. Baseball, you can literally get a tree branch off the ground and a rock and you can practice, right? But hockey, you have to have a stick and a puck and you need skates and like to actually play the game. And I think it puts people behind for the cost to get in, because it's just like, here's a basketball, son. The court's right down the road. We don't have to pay anything. Go practice for free as much as you want. And it's easier for kids in the U.S. especially to get into soccer, basketball, and baseball than it is hockey.
Hockey is the most expensive, and yet it has the least viewership out of any of the 4 major markets of sports in North America, which is
But that's what I mean, is because these kids grow up, with an easier access to other sports. So that's what they're watching. And then because their parents are watching them, they're becoming fans of the sport. So then they watch that sport, and it brings, let's say the kid and then the parents and then the grandparents. So it brings like a whole viewership just because their grandson plays basketball. They watch basketball now. Maybe they didn't before, right? So it brings in a whole new dynamic every time, and it alternates. But for the most part, I think it's just harder to get into hockey because you can't just get a hockey stick for cheap. Not
And you
very
got to
cheap.
remember,
You can, but not
I guess you got to remember that NCAA in the States is like widely represented too. Everybody watches college football, college baseball, and you know, so I get it. College basketball, even, March Madness. So I
So
get
you're
why their
telling me I
viewership's up.
can't go to Walmart right now and go buy a $60 hockey stick
No,
and
but that's what I
go
mean.
play road hockey?
$60 though. That's what I mean. They used to be 10 or 20 at Walmart when they were just pieces of crap. Now they're pieces of crap and they're 60. So that's what I mean. Like literally a baseball bat. If you just go and you buy like a kid's baseball bat, I think that they're $30. If you go buy a soccer ball, it could be 10. If you buy a basketball, it's probably 15.
It's still more reasonable price than going to a big name store or seller of a hockey stick and realizing that there are $300, $500, $800 sticks out there.
Absolutely. But the other thing is, like you can do it without. So if you get a hockey ball for $2 and you get a hockey stick for $60, there's nowhere really like there is a basketball court and a soccer field where there's like a hockey net somewhere in Southern America, where the largest majority of the population is. There isn't just hockey nets and
fair enough.
And
I'm thinking of our town where there's like 8 different
everywhere.
arenas that we can go play at right now. But
exactly. But what I mean is more like just America in general. The lower half of the states don't have that. It's just not
Because they're more interested in college football, college baseball. That's what the South is known for.
Exactly, which is fine because there's obviously a lot of Hispanic people, and Hispanic people love baseball and they love soccer, which is fine, and they love football too. But they're gifted athletes when it comes to baseball, so that's what they play, and that's multi-million group of people watching one sport that isn't taking eyes towards hockey, and it's cheaper. All right, well that was a good spit because we haven't even talked about the scores. We just went right into it. So we got the wild card games. We had the Packers over the Cowboys, 48-32. Lions over the Rams, 24-23. Texans over the Browns, 45-14. Kansas City over Miami, 26-7. Buffalo over Pittsburgh, 31-17. And Tampa over the Eagles, 32-9. That brought us to the divisional games we were just talking about. Baltimore beat the Texans, 34-10. San Fran beat Green Bay 24-21. Detroit over Tampa 31-23, and the Chiefs over the Bills 27-24. And it's been great football to watch all the way around. But
and you know what? Back to what you were saying, Dallas, I think, or you were saying Mahomes could potentially be better than Tom Brady eventually.
When it's all said and done.
Well, he's more than half younger than Brady. I don't know how to word that correctly. Yeah, more than half it. And him and Kelce have already surpassed him and Gronk's receiving touchdown number in playoff history. So that's awesome.
Which is extremely wild.
Crazy.
Because Brady and Gronk have been going at it for a while in their early days with New England. Like, god damn.
And I don't know if you guys caught. Did you watch Travis and Jason Kelce's podcast with Gronk on it?
I missed it. No,
I missed it too.
Gronk was saying that there was almost a chance. He said if they're like he's retired and like he made the decision that he's staying retired, I guess, ever since Tom Brady said he's like done. But I guess there was a slight chance that Gronk said that he might have wanted to go play for Buffalo.
Well, I mean,
there was talks this year that he could have went and played for Buffalo, so that would have been insane to see.
Yeah.
And there was also back in the day when he got himself out of a trade where he would have been heading to Detroit.
Yep. That's probably the funniest NFL story ever.
Oh,
Where
that's
they're like,
awesome,
we
dude.
traded you to Detroit, and he's like,
What do you
oh,
mean? I'm retired.
you can't trade me. I'm retired. And then they were like, oh, okay. And then you I don't know how they didn't get how he didn't get punished by the league for that, by just being like, never mind, I'm back. And then the Patriots being like, you know what, we'll keep you now. Like, how no one got punished in that situation. But he's just like a frat boy who does whatever he wants, and that's just true to him. Just, what do you mean? I don't even play football anymore.
Yeah.
The Lions are like, okay, well, we obviously don't want to trade an asset for him then. And then he's like, nah, just kidding, I'm back. Wins 2-3 more Super Bowls since then.
Literally.
They were at 4, I think, him and Brady, and then they got to 7. So wild. All right, let's get into the hockey, gentlemen. Fun story, just out of nowhere. In the ECHL, the Newfoundland Growlers were riddled with injuries, and they were running out of players. And because they're the ECHL, they're the bottom division of pro hockey from the NHL, AHL, ECHL. So they needed guys to sign. They called on a now actor. We'll call him a Shoresy legend, Terry Ryan. He's a Canadian ball hockey legend as well. He played on his 47th birthday, and in true fashion to himself, he got in a scrap. And you just love to see it. He was heartfelt. He was crying in the interview after, saying he just didn't want to embarrass his daughter. She never got to see him play pro. And yeah, he was excited, and it was a cool story. Obviously the Newfoundland Growlers, it was a great business move for them to get him to the game because he's a large figure in Newfoundland, and yeah, they just got that out there, and it put on a good show.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome.
And in the NHL, we had Jason Dickinson extend 2 years, $4.25 million. Like, oh my goodness, Chicago. We know you have no one, and we know you have lots of money, but these are like fourth liners. Nick Foligno, 4.5. Jason Dickinson, 4.25 million. Like, can I go to Chicago? I'll come fight for Bedard for 2. Give me 2. I'll drop the gloves.
And on even more disgusting news, Corey Perry signs a league minimum with Edmonton.
Well, clearly whatever he did wasn't bad enough, because the NHL took no sanction against him. And I think he understood that he screwed up in Chicago, and because by the sounds of it, he could have went through the PA and fought to get his money, but I think he went, nope, I fucked up. My bad. I'll take the hit. I don't need the money. And he said, I just want to be back in the league playing. So I think that because
where the hell did Edmonton even get the money for him?
Never even asked him to come talk to him. Oh, he's frozen. That's okay. Bettman even never asked him to come talk to him. He went on his own, requested a meeting with Gary Bettman, and then when they talked, Bettman said, like, yeah, of course, what you did, we know what you did, and it wasn't worth a suspension from the league, so they can go from there. But he seems happy to be in Edmonton. I think he'll be a great addition there. I have his contract structure here. So he's got 1 year, $775K, but it's going to be $325,000 in bonuses, so almost half. It's going to be $225,000 for 10 games played, $50,000 if Edmonton wins in the second round of the playoffs, and Perry A plays in 50% of the round 2 games, or B 50% of the total round 1 and round 2 games, and 3 $50,000 if Edmonton wins the third round of the playoffs and Perry A plays in 50% of round 3 games, or B 50% of all the rounds 1, 2, and 3 games. So really, this is like you have to play to get paid, because that's 325 in the bonuses. Well, I guess so it's 225 plus the 100, so to make it the 325. But it's, if you want half of what you're getting, you gotta
earn it, boy.
Play. You gotta play, and we gotta go far.
To me, I just don't understand the signing. I mean, you guys are so hot. You just set the Canadian record in consecutive wins with 13. And then I just don't think Perry's the piece they need, like.
But you have to remember, they owe their fans a Stanley Cup loss, like every other team he's played for lately.
You know what? With Perry, it's probably going to come, dude. Look at all these teams that he's gone to that are superstar teams, and he hasn't won squad. I mean, he does have one to his name, I believe, with Anaheim.
Yeah, with
right?
Anaheim. But that was his rookie year.
Yeah.
He's
It's crazy that he
18.
actually turned down deals from Tampa Bay and Florida to go
and
play
New
in
York,
Edmonton.
And the Rangers. Yeah.
To go play in Edmonton. So
to me, maybe part of his whatever alcoholism, maybe he didn't think he could go back to Tampa. If that's where maybe it started, because he had no issues up until Tampa, and they're a tight knit group. They're older guys. They're known for drinking beer. They're known for hanging out and being guys off the ice. And maybe he just got a little carried away when he was down there. Whereas the rest of them can party, but they're not alcoholics. It might have just caught up to him.
I mean, Tampa's best winger literally has a Bud Light sponsorship. So
literally, that's what I mean. You go over to Cooch's house and Cooch has 15 coolers full of beer and he's like, take 2 home.
Like, he's probably got the Post Malone treatment where he's got a Bud Light beer fridge and someone stocks it for him every day.
True. I wouldn't doubt it, though, if they canceled that by now. Like, again, with the NHL being a minor revenue for a lot of companies, they'd be like, okay, like, we don't really need to keep sponsoring this guy.
Yeah. Hey, Dal, you all right over there, bud?
Yeah, am I frozen for you?
Nope. It's frozen again. That's okay. We'll continue on. We had Patrick Kane leave with a lower body injury. He has not returned for Detroit since. We had Valerie Nichuskin enter the player assistance program. So something is going on in Colorado. Because now that's the second guy. Now Nichuskin needed it. I mean, we've seen videos of him holding guns. We've seen videos of him taking shots and being kind of wild. So if anyone needed it, it was him. But now that's Gerard and that's him in the same year going into the player assistance program. So something's going on in Colorado that no one's really talking about.
Yeah, for that to be 2 guys within a couple months
Dube
span.
Also added to the player assistance program.
Oh, he just texted me. His video keeps freezing. I'm going to tell him to leave and come back. Yeah, we had also Tyler Ennis officially retired from hockey. Jared Spurgeon's going to miss the remainder of the year with back and hip surgery, and the Wild can now use his entire $7.5 million cap hit as IR relief. Like their cap hit is crazy right now with the IR relief they have. But it sounds like they'll probably be sellers. Like not having your captain as the Minnesota Wild, that's a pretty big loss. I think it's time for them to realize that they aren't going to be in the playoffs. And if they do make it, they aren't going to go far. So,
I heard a report Fleury's linked to Colorado.
The Capitals extended Alexi Protas 5 years, $3.375 million. I was like, I've heard of Alexi Protas, and I know he plays okay, but that's a pretty big ticket for a relatively newer guy in the league. Not too big of a cap hit, but also not small enough, I don't think, in my opinion. Should have been around $2 million, I think.
Yeah, I mean, adding to the signings, I think Shane Pinto, like, signing a 1-year league minimum with Ottawa was, if he wants to stay in Ottawa, that's probably the right direction to go after your half the season suspension, right? Like,
but you know what I thought about with that though, which was really smart, was remember he's getting 50% of his contract axed, right? Whatever he signed this year. So say Pinto signed a 1-year $5 million contract, boom, immediately $2.5 million gone to suspension. So it's like, what's the point of signing it now? Right now the NHL only gets like $400K, right? So it was like, why sign a big ticket when you lose more than you get. Whereas here, he just gets to finish the year, gets his couple $100,000, and then he can sign a long-term deal for more money next year, especially if they trade Chychrun like they're talking about. There's a lot more money in Ottawa's pool to be had next year. But I think they missed him. Ottawa has missed this guy this year.
No 100%. Ottawa's missed a lot of things this year.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. Dude, like we talked about, they probably have the best
Playoffs will be one of them.
D in the NHL. Right? Like Chabot, Chychrun, Sanderson, however you want to label them, and the fact that they're not winning hockey games.
Oh man, and you know what though? I think if Ottawa keeps this up, dude, I think that's almost like guaranteed. Like say goodbye to Brady.
Could be.
You're gonna get Matthew.
Seems frustrated.
Yeah, you're gonna get Matthew Tkachuk real quick.
Yep. Unfortunately, he did just sign his deal, but doesn't mean he can't request a trade.
Exactly.
Especially if he doesn't like the new ownership or something, right? Like, obviously, they seem good to us because they're like, we're going to change the Senators, we're going to be better. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't like them.
But, I think...
They just want fans in the stands, money.
Well, I think just with the signing of Tarasenko and then trading for Chychrun, it almost just seemed like a really rushed scenario to try and hope to be better.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just hasn't panned out for them.
And now they're thinking of selling Chychrun.
Right? Like
exactly.
You haven't even had him.
What was that for then?
Haven't even had him for a year and you're already thinking about flipping him.
And he's excited to be there. You know how many players are excited to be in Ottawa? Not Alex DeBrincat. That's who.
Yeah.
Like, if you have
Vladimir Tarasenko's probably already regretting
Ottawa,
his signing.
Good young players, you need to keep them. You can't just be like, oh, it's been 1 year and it's not working. Like, who's your right side D? You have like Artem Zub. Like, who is Artem Zub? They're playing Eric Brandstrom, and look, Eric Brandstrom is good, but he's like a best at AHL top 2D because he just doesn't have it in the NHL. Like, then Bernard Docker's not turning out for them. Like, they can't put it all on Chychrun.
No.
Are you there, Dally? Can you hear us, brother? Oh, nope, we lost him again. Full lost. That's okay. We'll continue on with Canucks extend Jim Rutherford to a multi-year extension. Carolina claims Spencer Martin off waivers from Columbus. And like you said, Dylan Dube was granted his indefinite leave of absence to attend to his mental health. Another news on the Oilers is they have reached 13 straight wins, which is only 4 wins behind Pittsburgh at their NHL record 17. So maybe there's some announcer's curse right there. But my brother, who's an Oilers fan, he was telling me their next 4 games, it's like something like Arizona, San Jose, Vegas, and then Anaheim.
Damn. How bad would it be to lose your streak to either Arizona or San Jose? Especially San Jose, man. Like, imagine that.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Oh, that'd be disgusting.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can. Now.
Dude, my thing just keeps cutting out. It's so annoying.
That's okay. No worries. I'm avoiding the big topics for you so we can bring you back in when you can hear us. So are you good now, you think?
Yeah, I can hear you. You guys, your video quality is good. I think it's my Wi-Fi. There's just too many people on it right now.
No worries. So going back now, let's talk about the Islanders leaving the bench before their game ended. Bo Horvat was the only player from the bench who stayed while the 5 remaining players were left on the ice. And coincidentally, I think this directly led to the firing of Lane Lambert and hiring of Patrick Waugh. So to me, it was a joke. Like, yes, it was the end of the game and whatever happened. Like, sometimes you see teams leave like a few seconds early, but this was like before the face-off, and they just left these guys to dry. And
classless.
I think that's just a joke.
See, because Bo Horvat, he's a previous captain. Okay, he's got respect. He's a good player. He's a good guy, right? He won't. Yep. He would never pull a move like that and join his team.
And their captain was on the ice, and so was Brock Nelson. So like their leaders were out there.
And, yeah, but I mean that's probably also due to the fact that you grow up your whole life as this is a sportsman, like a sportsmanship type of game. But then you got your head coach like just dipping on you guys, like
I think it's really the reason why he's gone. I think the management and ownership were pissed and embarrassed that this story was out there and he was on the chopping block, but they probably reached out to Patrick Waugh, found out he was interested, got the paper rolling, and as soon as it was yes, it was just like, boom, cut the cord, see you later.
And you know what? He should have been fired for that. You just gave up on your team, man. Like, I know it's probably not the best scenario to be in, but like, you don't give up on your team like that. You don't just say, "Okay, see you
You
later."
guys are you guys are also 6 games above 500. Why are you pulling classless acts like that? You know, like okay, you lose one hockey game. You guys are still got a winning record. Like just I don't know, man. That was bullshit. But hey, you know what? Former Memorial Cup champion Patrick Waugh gets the job. I think he might turn around that ship for the Islanders.
Yeah,
Good.
he's already got a first dub under his first game, so
I watched him
There you
win that
go.
Memorial
It's
Cup.
working out.
That was awesome. That team was good, man. He had those kids playing well and together, and that's all the Islanders are missing. All right, let's jump over. Dally, I know you have some big input here on this. Cale Makar ended up 1 point off Bobby Orr's record for the fastest defenseman to 300 points in 279 games. He officially became the second fastest defenseman to 300 points in 280 games, just one game later. But it doesn't matter. I mean, to be compared to the best defenseman in history on that level is unreal. And Cale Makar could go down as the best defenseman in history, period, by the time his career is done with the way he's playing and what he does.
Ditto. Ditto to that comment, man. Like it doesn't matter if it's 1 point by one game. It doesn't matter. I like what you said. It's all said and done, Cale Makar may, in fact, go down as one of the best D-man of all time. He's already showing it. Drafted in 2017, and we're already in 2024, right? Like this kid is unbelievable. Cale Makar is an amazing defenseman. Always in the Norris talks. Always getting so many multi-point games. Like he is fun and unbelievable to watch. And I don't care if anyone is out there criticizing that he missed the opportunity to pass Bobby Orr. Hey man, you should still feel privileged to have one of your favorite players in talks with a guy like Bobby Orr. So you know what? Congrats to Cale on that.
It's unreal.
yeah, I got nothing to add. Colorado's a bunch of bums, dude. Just kidding. No. You know what I will add though is I will add I mean, if anyone's argument is Quinn Hughes, I'm only gonna say like Quinn Hughes has only been brought in that talk this year. He's always been a good defenseman.
One season.
He's always been a good defenseman, but only 1 year has put him in a talk as a top defender.
You know what? I'll add this quickly from when you compare them, right? Bobby Orr is probably the best defenseman in NHL history, period. Like all around defenseman. He got back, he played defense, he went up, he played offense. Quinn Hughes is trying to figure that out, but what's he, 3-4 years in the league, and he's been sheltered behind Brandon Tanev. He's been sheltered behind Tyler Myers because of his defense lack ability. This year he's starting to get it. But from the first second that Makar came in the league, his job was literally, you have to stop McDavid. Like, who else at 18, 19 years old gets that thrown at you to be able to skate with him, to be able to defend him, and then to be able to produce offense against him all at the same time? It's unheralded.
Yeah, he's been a complete game changer since he's hopped into the league.
And you know what's funny is that even Colorado took a gamble at him in the draft. They took him 4th overall, and who was projected the best defenseman of that draft? None other than Miro Heiskanen. All right, Joe Sakic took a gamble and decided to go with Cale Makar. So
and
I think Dallas, if anything, would be shaking their heads right now.
You know what though, dude?
You can't go wrong.
Look at that draft that Dallas had though. Like I agree that Makar is probably the better defenseman in that draft, but look at that draft that Dallas had that year in particular, dude. It was Heiskanen, Jason Robertson, and there's one other.
Ottinger.
Was it Ottinger?
Ottinger.
Those three alone in that draft, dude. I don't think Dallas is kicking the tires too hard with not getting Makar.
Obviously, my reference point is always Tampa, but it literally takes 1 or 2 drafts. If you look at Tampa 2011, 2012, Kucherov, Nemesnikov, and then Vasilevsky. They went the Russian route. and look at where their team is now. Obviously, they don't have Nemesnikov. They traded him last year after trading him originally. But, like, it only takes 2 drafts to just rapidly change your franchise to get 2 franchise-changing players, and they got it in 1. They got 3. Ottinger, Heiskanen, and Robertson are 3 franchise-altering players.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, Detroit's kicking their tires on that one. They could have had Vasilevsky, but they wanted Kyle Quincy
Yep, that's
for
fine.
that first rounder, man.
They can have.
They could have gotten Vazzy.
It's just funny that Yzerman fleeced Detroit on that trade, and then now he's the general manager of the Red Wings. Oh, poor Red Wings fans.
I mean, what's actually tough is when you and I were paying attention to that draft, and you were mad that Tampa Bay didn't draft Malcolm Subban.
That's true. I will own that. You know, not knowing about him, and obviously Malcolm Subban was the hottest goalie ever at, like, in whatever, whoever was talking about it, like, Malcolm Subban was number 1. There was no debate, right? Like, it was a surprise. I remember they were like, Andre Vasilevsky, and all the announcers were like, whoa, Vasilevsky, like, not Malcolm Subban? Really? They're going with that goalie? And, like, yes, he was in the top 2 or 3 goalies ranked in that draft, but Malcolm Subban was supposed to be, like, the number 1. And then he went to Boston, and I was like, no, not, like, we took this kid, and then they got hit. And then it was just like 2 years later, it was like Malcolm Subban, not an NHL goaltender, Vasilevsky becoming one of the best young goaltenders in the league. And it was just like, thank goodness that worked out. Because, yeah, I'll admit it. Like, not knowing about him, I was disappointed. I was like, no way. But I'm happy we got him. Okay, I think we're on to the biggest news in hockey now, which is starting next season. This is from Jason Greger. Starting next season, 5 teams from the Alberta Junior Hockey League will be joining the BC Hockey League. That is Spruce Grove, Sherwood Park, Brooks Bandits, Black Falls, and Okotoks. They will be merging into the BCHL, and the AJHL noted that they found out through the BCHL's press release, and they were completely blindsided, and they have responded by what seems like indefinitely kicking those teams out of the league. They have stopped their matches or their games from being played, and I don't see a way that they let them finish the years. They will remove them from the standings, I think, and they will terminate them from the league, essentially. So this was huge news. It came out of absolutely nowhere. It was announced at the BCHL All-Star Game, which was a fantastic event if you guys got to see any of it. It was
in Penticton cool. This year.
Mm-hmm. So they did an all-star game, but then the next day they did a 3-on-3 outdoor tournament on an outdoor rink, and they had some of the coolest jerseys. And then they did like a BCHL alumni game, and Scott Gomez was there, and they had awesome jerseys. Like, this is what happens when you leave Canada hockey and you can go do whatever you want, because they just made it happen. They did their own insurance, not under Hockey Canada's insurance. So they did the outdoor game. Like, you know, we've been talking about why doesn't the WHL and that stuff do more outdoor games? But there's a lot of stuff that you have to put through Hockey Canada and has to be approved and yada, yada, yada. Well, they just did it. Penticton is one of their cities that their team is in. They found the rink, then they made a venue for outdoors, and they did a whole bunch of different events, and it looked fantastic.
They even had celebrity guests there too. A couple guys from Letterkenny, yeah. Tyler Johnston and Dylan Playfair. Like, yeah. I've paid attention to the British Columbia Hockey League for quite a few years now, and they always put on a great All-Star weekend. Always. They always have some very clean-looking uniforms that each team comes out with. You know, the skills competition between the actual BCHL teams, and you got your friendlies, you know, your 3-on-3 outdoor games, like, just really fun stuff. And I think that it is a good way moving forward that as an independent league, this is good that, you know, you're able to do this stuff. You don't have to have a governing body hovering over you telling you what you can and cannot do, because this is total fanfare, right? People want to see this, you know? This is fun stuff.
Hey man, I just keep feeling older and older as we do this. So when my brother was playing spring hockey, he was playing with an older brother who had 2 younger brothers as well. And I'm looking at the highlights, and I was like, I had to be 14, and the youngest brother of this family was, 5 maybe, and he was at this All-Star game from the Kelowna Chiefs. I was like, holy cow! Like, I am so old now. And that Sam Ward, Matt Ward, because they were brothers as well, younger brothers, and the Milburns. You know the Milburns. This is Brady Milburn.
I've never met them, but
yeah, you heard the name. And so yeah, Brady Milburn was playing in the All-Star game for Kelowna, and then his older brothers Regan and Connor were both in junior A and stuff as well. And I think Regan's in college. I'm not sure, but I was like, geez, man, just so many Kamloops guys in that age group are coming out and performing well, which is good to see.
Here's another thing, though, going back to your original thought, though, Riley, like the fact that the AHL was blindsided by this, finding out in a BCHL press conference release, like as shitty as that is, like you kind of have to put politics aside, okay? Like the guys are going out there to play hockey, right? And then when they also have to find out about this, and then the teams are getting punished for something that the kids didn't even do, and now they can't finish the season to play hockey, like it's totally unfair to them. I think it's totally unfair to them because it was just blindsided. And then yet the league's going to go ahead and just say, well, you know what? You guys are suspended for the rest of the year. I think it's totally unfair.
The hard thing is, I think it's fair.
You think so?
Because the teams did this to their players by allowing this to be announced in the middle of their season, right? Like, without talking to the league about it, first of all. Obviously, there's been some bad blood there, and I think the league had no choice. What are they going to do? Let these, like, if they don't put their backup, who's next, basically, right? What 5 teams are going to leave the league next? Because there was no ramifications. So now it's like, okay, the rest of the year you get no ticket sales, you get no games. You guys are paying to rent your ice the rest of the year with no income. Like, here you go. Because it was apparently they were claiming that these teams were having financial hardship staying in that league because of the travel, and there wasn't enough support, and so they left. But if they're going to leave, I think that the punishment's fair, that, you know what, the teams don't get to play. Like, you don't just get to announce you're leaving and then get to continue playing.
Like business and politics aside, yes. Definitely, I totally agree with that, yeah. I just still think it's unfair to the players because they had no say in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, these are some of the AJHL's league, most successful teams leaving too. So I think if you want to look on the brighter side where the grass is greener and better pasture, it's going to be moving forward better, I think, for these 5 franchises in the BCHL, because everyone knows that the BCHL has been growing in popularity and, you know, being all independent from Hockey Canada. Like I think it's going to be a good look going forward for these Alberta clubs because now there's just more potential.
Yeah, better prospect. And like I said to you guys when we were talking about it off camera, like, so I don't think the players are actually going to get to go with these teams. What's going to happen is they're going to be free agents at the end of the year. So at the end of every junior year, you only can sign a 1-year contract. You have to retry out. You have to re-sign your contract. Yada, 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 right? In this league, like WHL, you can sign more, I think, or whatever, but you have to re-sign every year in these junior leagues. So their contracts will end. They're contracted to the Alberta Junior Hockey League. They will have the opportunity to leave and try out in the BC Hockey League for those same teams. And those teams may save a spot for them, but it's probably not a guaranteed spot because you're going from Alberta Junior Hockey, which is great, to the BCHL, which is the #1 junior league in Canada.
Yeah.
So it's some of those kids might not find homes, and there's kids that should be in the BCHL that aren't today because there weren't enough teams that are gonna be jumping at these teams. You're gonna say, hey, I want to play. You know, you're playing in the BCHL now. I'll move to Alberta to play there.
Yeah, and basically in the CJHL, like there was the 10 leagues, right? And the BCHL, when they were still under that umbrella of the CJHL, they produced the most D1 level players scouted by NCAA at any of the other leagues combined, which was a staggering amount. I think I think the last year that they were still there governing, it was 162 players that got committed to NCAA in the States, which was crazy. So good for them. So I think going independent is a great move to them.
And I love
Just
seeing whenever you see on social media, they post like the game day rosters. So cool because they usually beside the name, they'll put like the college the player's committed to, if they're committed to one, if they're old enough to. So it's really cool
Yeah.
to see that too. You can see all these colleges, right? Like North Dakota, Minnesota, like, where they're going. And it's really neat to be like, oh man, these kids, like they're actually, they're going somewhere after this because they've committed to those schools. So I think that's a really cool aspect.
Well, Riley, do you want to just quickly touch base with anyone on here too? Is because we were going back and forth yesterday with a few people, like just kind of clearing the air on what actually is going on. Like some people are considering this is the fall of the Alberta Junior Hockey League. Some are claiming that they're going woke, or this is a bad look on Hockey Canada. Like, kind of just summarize of like what your thoughts were of people claiming that this is maybe a bad look on the BCHL, or also maybe it's a good thing moving forward for this
Well,
league.
what I was trying to say to people is like, there's obviously no way that the AJHL wins this in any way. They
Yeah.
lose. They lose 5 of their best teams, 5 of their biggest teams, and now they have 5 teams of players to try and deal with, to try and find new homes, and they have to try and fill those spots as well. But I think the BCHL is doing what they should do. They're an independent league. Expansion is what it should be. And I bet you that one of these Alberta teams reached out to them first, saying, hey, are you guys looking to add teams? And then that probably spread the word to a couple of other teams that, because it's a league. No one's ever fully happy, right? No, not every team is happy to be in a league. There's things that go against them that they're arguing with or whatever with the commissioner. So if these teams weren't happy, maybe they wanted more revenue cuts or whatever because they're the bigger teams. Who knows? But they banded together and they left together. And good on the BCHL for going after them. And I think the BCHL wants to be like the WHL for college hockey. I think that they want to come across and get all of Western Canada and try and get a bunch of teams into their league. And, the travel will be fine. The WHL does it all the time. They travel those roads and they make it work. And I think that's what they want to do. And they want to be like Canada's #1 college recruitment period, not just BC's, like the BC Hockey League. I think that they're going to transition at some point into like a Western Canadian Junior A League or like, something like that. They'll find a name for it.
Well, and I think doesn't adding these Alberta teams also help the fact that within the BCHL now they can divide it by conference now? Like they could almost have like a Western Eastern Conference kind of thing going on within their league now.
Yeah, so they had Coast and they had Mainland, or Coast and Interior, I think, were the 2 conferences.
Yeah. So I mean
now they're gonna have,
that's a cool aspect to it.
So they will have a West and the East. It looks like it's going to be the Mainland Division, the Island Division, the Interior Division, and the Alberta Division. So obviously teams like near us, Merritt Centennials, there, and it looks like, is that Penticton? Oh, Nelson Leafs. They don't have the names; they just have the logos. Vernon Vipers, Trail Smoke Eaters, Salmon Arm Silverbacks, and Vernon Vipers. That's the Interior Division. The Alberta Division is Okotoks Oilers, Brooks Bandits, Bulldogs. Sorry, some of these are blurry. Obviously, the 5 Alberta teams. Then Cranbrook, it looks like, is in that.
Sorry, side note, I just seen that too for the Alberta division with Cranbrook Bucks. Once upon a time in the Western Hockey League, the Kootenay Ice was stationed in Cranbrook, and they were also in the Alberta division just because their time zone is an hour ahead. Yeah, so it's kind of cool that they would include them in there.
So the Island Division is obviously the Island. They got the Nanaimo Clippers, Victoria Grizzlies, the Kings. I don't know what that I don't even know what that one is. And then there's another Bulldog. Then you got the Langley Rivermen. Apparently there's 2 Kings. Apparently. Then the
Powell River and Prince George.
The Express, and then there's the Kelowna Chiefs and one other logo there. But so yeah, they're breaking it up and it looks pretty good. So I'm assuming that the Interior Division, meaning like Merritt, because that's all more east, is going to be in the east with the Alberta Division, and the west will be the Inland, or the Island and the Mainland Division, which is like the coast. And obviously they threw Kelowna in there. I can't believe that they have Kelowna and Vernon in different divisions, though. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Considering
they should all be in the interior, if anything.
Where was
because they're all
Penticton in this?
interior division.
Oh, the V's. There they are. Where's the Nelson Leafs then? Did I miss the Leafs? I said them, but I thought that was the V's. I don't see the Nelson Leafs here.
Nelson, I think they're in the KIJHL.
Oh, sorry, they're Junior B. Sorry.
Yeah, they're in the K.
These are my leagues. You're right. I saw the blue maple leaf and thought of them. So that's the V's. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, I think it's good. I mean, Hockey Canada notably had its struggles the last couple of years. I think they're doing better under the leadership they're under now. But they're, again, everyone had to report to them. I think the BCHL was just tired of reporting to them. I think they looked at their one kid that they sent to the World Juniors every 3 years and went, why are we in Hockey Canada when we only send one kid to the World Junior Hockey Championships and we send 162 to college, but we have to follow the guidelines of Hockey Canada. So they went out on their own. I think they just want to become like a recruitment mega hub for college teams to come.
Yeah, I heard interest from like the States, the foreign markets, everywhere.
Exactly. I think that they can get, because the CHL has import rules on import players, and they could change their import rules to maybe no rules. Maybe they could have 5 Russians and 5 Americans and then a bunch of Canadian, whatever, right? Like, because I think it's 3 import players in Hockey Canada you can have. So that limits you. And yes, it's to spread the talent out, because you have some coach who's coaching in Canada. He's Russian. He knows 10 Russian kids that are better than half his team. He brings them over because there's no salary cap. All of a sudden, this team is a mega force. No, they have to go through the international expansion draft for players every year, and then they get picked by a team, and they pick their league. They can pick QMJHL, OHL, or WHL, and then they get dispersed. But
yeah, we also had Wenatchee in this league too last year, the BCHL, the one American team.
Yep.
So,
and
if they want to say road trips are a problem, it shouldn't be, because think of going from Grand Prairie to Calgary, or you know what I mean. Like the road trips, I also think won't be a total issue going to these Alberta division teams, but
exactly, it won't be an issue because it's the same thing as going from like Brandon to Prince George.
Yeah,
like
in the Western Hockey League. Same thing.
Yeah, that's about as far as it gets. Or even, let's say, Tri-Cities to Prince George. Like, going to Prince George always sucks for any team because they're so far out. But everyone else has to remember, Prince George has to travel everywhere else.
Themselves.
Time. So, I don't know.
Well, even here in Kamloops, they're like 620K from us up north.
Yeah.
That's a 6-hour drive. And then them themselves are in the middle of British Columbia. Like, it's a big province if you think of it going south to north.
Yeah. Yeah, like that's.
But anyways,
that's crazy.
Long story short, you know what? Hockey Canada's got their hands full. This won't be you said it best, Riley. This isn't end all be all, okay? They still have 118 teams across 9 other leagues under the umbrella of the AJHL under Hockey Canada. So they got their hands full still. This shouldn't be an end all be all. You know what? Think of this: Penticton V's versus the Brooks Bandits. BCHL's top team versus Alberta's top team. A matchup made in heaven for hockey fans. That is crazy. 2 elite franchises going up against each other in junior hockey. Crazy.
And I think this will spread. I think you'll see some Saskatchewan teams, and I'm talking like maybe in the next 5 years, you'll see 1 or 2 Saskatchewan teams want to join. Well, right? Like you were talking about Estevan.
It's going to come down to they're going to see the benefit of how the BCHL is working, and they're going to want a piece of it.
Oh, 100%.
Running a junior league like a professional league.
Yeah. And I mean, realistically, it's just another league to have these kids get noticed better, I think.
And your Estevan Bruins there, Dakota. Even Flin Flon, like they top teams in the SJHL.
Bruins,
Wow, Estevan.
You lived there for a minute.
Yeah, for like a hot minute, dude.
Yeah, well.
Moving on. There was a press release today that was just stating like the SJHL is going to step up to be the top of these leagues, like top dogs. So let's see how far that slides, and maybe they might even, like you said, go their own route and come over to this independent league.
Is the NOJHL, the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League, in this
Yes, sir.
umbrella?
Yep.
Okay. Saskatchewan, there's no way you're better than any Ontario Junior League. I don't care how you stretch it. There's
I'm pretty sure the NOJHL's only got 7 teams though too, so they don't got much to choose from. The most one of those Ontario leagues has is 12 teams.
Yeah. The AJHL doesn't have many now either.
Yeah, I know they got a piece of that pie just cut right out.
And here's what would be funny to see. It would be funny to see, let's say, because the SJHL is not known to be an elite league. So let's say Estevan and Flin Flon decide, oh, there's some free looking spots over there in the Alberta League. Probably more revenue in the Alberta League for them. Like, they'd have to apply to the CJHL, and they'd probably get denied because the CJHL would be like, no more drama. Like, we can't handle it. But
Dakota, see if you can further my point here, though. 'Cause like I alluded to, you lived in Estevan for a hot minute. To the rest of Canada, they may not know that these smaller market teams, such as like Estevan or Flin Flon of the CJHL, are huge. But to those people in those small towns, they're everything.
Oh, dude,
they're junior hockey, and this league is everything to them.
100%. The high school I was going to, I think there's a couple guys, like, when I first went to that school, they were playing for the Bruins, but, like, that small town. So here's how I looked at it. If they were a football fan, it was strictly the Rough Riders. I met one BC Lion fan when I lived in Estevan, and I was the only Stampeders fan, which was crazy. Or if you go the hockey route, their NHL is divided. They didn't really seem like it was one team. It was kind of like Winnipeg, any Alberta team, and so on. But when it came to the Estevan Bruins, dude, that community was so hardcore into their Bruins. It was insane. But it's so, I guess to break that down, it would be similar. The Bruins would be similar as to what the Blazers would be for us.
Yeah.
Just obviously just not with as big of an arena as we have, but that's how dedicated the fans are to that team.
Did you guys know that they're also connected to one another, those two teams that you just brought up, Blazers and Estevan Bruins?
Yeah.
Started as Estevan and worked their way down.
Yep.
Or up, I guess. Worked their way up.
But yeah, hockey to them is everything in Saskatchewan, and yeah. They may not be known throughout Canada, but to them in Saskatchewan alone, they are elite franchises and they love their hockey.
Which is why I could see them leaving if the BCHL came calling, because it would be even further reason to grow their brand, but still have their loyal fan base close to home.
Well, you know what? When you look at something like the Humboldt Broncos bus crash, that just goes to show you how
close knit. What you're trying to say?
Close knit, I guess, or how devoted Saskatchewan as a province as a whole is in their little hockey community.
Of course.
All right, gentlemen. Let's get on to our 2 segments here at Gameday Tarps podcast. Segment number 1, Game Day Reviews. We have every week we put a randomizer on NHL teams and then we discuss them. So we have Dallas discussing the Ottawa Senators, Dakota the Carolina Hurricanes, I almost said Panthers, and myself the Seattle Kraken. So who wants to jump on that first?
I guess I'll go first. Carolina Hurricanes are 25-15-5, so it looks like they are still running for a playoff spot, and I do think that they have a good team to do it as long as you got Andrei Svechnikov healthy. I think their D-core is just insane. I mean, yeah, you got an aged Burns, but man's still killing it, and you got Slavin, you got
Pesci, Orlov,
Pesci, Brady Shea.
D'Angelo's there, even though he's not playing much.
Yeah, even though he's probably back in trade talks, but defensively, I think this team's got it. Goaltending wise, what do we got? We got Ranta and Kokotkov.
Anderson's injured. Kochetkov is injured. It's Ranta and someone else from the AHL right now. Oh no, they just picked up Spencer Martin on waivers.
Right. So
they just picked up Spencer Martin.
So a healthy team. This team's got a decent goaltending tandem. I mean, if anything, they probably just need a couple more depth forwards, honestly. But no, I think the direction they're going right now, this team's going to be. It's going to be a good team to watch in the playoffs, I think. It's not going to be their year, I don't think.
Always.
But I could see this team going. I'm going to predict second round. This team goes in the playoffs.
The East is just a bloodbath, man. Like, even so, the best team that is in this little window that I'm going to talk about is the Flyers. They're second in the Metro at 56, and you have Carolina 55. Toronto's third in the Atlantic at 54. But then you have the wild card. Detroit, Tampa 53, Islanders 51, Washington 50, New Jersey 51, Penguins 48. Like, by no means are the Carolina Hurricanes safe with all those teams, but they're in a good spot compared to a lot of those teams. They're at least in the playoff race. They have games in hand on most of those teams. So they should make the playoffs, but like, man, the East, like Tampa, I was counting them out. I was like, they're done. And then they won 6 straight. And it's just like, what is going on this year? Now they're back in a wild card. They were third in the Atlantic, and then they lost, and now Toronto's back. But like Toronto, they got Sheldon Keefe saying he can't trust anyone. The Red Wings are up and down, Lightning are up and down. Islanders just got Wall, like we talked about. Like, it's just a bloodbath around Carolina.
Teams love throwing on the afterburners the second half of the season. Think of the St. Louis Blues a couple years ago, dead last in the league, came back and won it all.
Yep.
So, just don't be surprised if a lot of these teams jump in the standings. But going back to you, Dakota, Carolina, always a threat to look out for in the playoffs. They're deep, and they always stay consistent. One of these days, they are going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals again.
Oh, 100% they are.
They're always looking good.
I mean, I think, you should probably stay away from the older guy. Like, I don't know, I would have questioned Brent Burns at first. But I like that, you're so used to him in a San Jose Sharks uniform that you just don't think that he's going to make it anywhere else. And,
yeah,
I still think he's killing it for Carolina. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think this team's going to make it to the playoffs. And I think they're going to be a second round exit.
Here we go again, though. I want to just again mention this. Like, why are NHL GMs, who are literally a goalie away from winning the Stanley Cup, not going all in on a goalie? All they need is a goalie. They have probably the best top 6 in the league in terms of D. They have some of the deepest forwards. They play the best defensive style hockey of any team in the NHL. They just have no goaltending, and they're relying on Spencer Martin on waivers to be their 4th goalie to come in. Like, go get somebody. Literally call Anaheim. What do you want? Okay, thanks. Here's the package. You're welcome. We'll take John
They're
Gibson.
too scared.
Like,
they're too scared to commit. They're too scared to commit to take a package.
Like,
they're looking like pretenders.
Everyone that's won recently, literally, you can contribute it to the goaltending. It's that simple. You had Binnington step up for St. Louis, and then you had Vasilevsky. Then you had Kemper play unreal for the Avalanche, and then you had was it Vegas after that now? Yeah. Then you had Aiden Hill play good for Vegas, and like every year it's just you need a goaltender. You need a goaltender. What about all these elite teams? Edmonton, Toronto, Carolina, New York Islanders. They have Sorokin now, but they didn't a couple of years ago when they were trying to get through the playoffs. Like, why is no one going after a goalie? It makes no sense.
Because you know what? All the goalies that are available right now are all playing hot, and they're probably asking an arm and a leg and more for those goalies to be taken. Maybe other than Elvis Merzlikins. Yeah. But again, they're probably looking to see what else is out there, just because that guy isn't what everyone's kind of like looking into right now with that contract and his play.
Elvis definitely is not who I would consider like who desperate teams should look at. He should be looked at as a backup. And I know he says he doesn't want to go anywhere where he's a backup. Well, buddy, you're not really a starter on most of the teams in the league. But it's John Gibson has been waiting for 3 or 4 years. And every year he hits a dip where it's like, okay, they need to move on from his contract. And it seems desperate. And no one, like, if it costs you 2 first-round picks, just pay it. Like, Tampa for Brandon Hagel gave up 2 first-round picks and then 2 prospects they drafted in the second round. Like, that's basically 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Brandon Hagel, who's good, but, like, it was Brandon Hagel. We're talking about John Gibson. We're talking about Connor Hellebuck when he was available. Like, Thatcher Demko was available. Like, what are these teams not doing, taking their shot? It makes no sense to me when the whole name of the game in the NHL is winning.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, we just don't want to give up that extra first-round pick.
Well, then you're a pretender. It's simple. You don't want to. If you can't build within your system with a goalie, go out and acquire one. But if you don't want to take that leap of faith on one, well, then you know what? You're going to be a pretender, and you're not going to go that far and win the Stanley Cup. You have to commit. You have to take that leap of faith. But they're not.
Everyone keeps saying like, oh, what's the market for goaltenders, right? Like, set it. If they're, you go 1 first-round pick, nope, 2 first-round picks, nope, 3 first-round picks. Yeah, we do that. Oh, there you go. Market
set the standard, man.
There you go. Like, I don't know why, like, Tampa fans, again, like, I know I always come back to this because it's who I follow the most, but like, everyone's mad. Oh man, we gave up all these picks for all these years. It's like, yeah, and we won twice. We gave up 2 first-round picks for Blake Coleman, a first-round pick for Barclay Goodrow, 2 firsts and 2 seconds for Brandon Hagel. We didn't win with Hagel, but then we gave up Nemesnikov, Libor Hayek, Brett Howden, a first for McDonough and JT Miller. Like, there's these trades that happen that you can see change the course of an organization and why they win, and then you see teams that just hold back and go, oh, we'll see if we make it, and they never do.
Well,
and you see. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Riley and I, you and I were talking the other day, like, why can't the NHL be kind of similar to NBA or even the WHL for that matter? Look at the package, look at the haul that some of these teams get just for one guy. Yep. And the NHL's too scared, or teams are too scared to do that. If you're serious about having, like, GMs, like, they're so serious about the direction they want to go, but they're too scared to, like, actually act on it.
Yep.
And yet you want a big trade like that, they usually get a third-party team in there to help compensate,
And who's trying to put pressure on Boston to take advantage of them? Like, you're going to lose one. You're going to lose one at the end of the year. Who's it going to be? Why don't you pick now and get something for them? Like
Jeremy Swayman. Exactly. He's probably the first to go.
Exactly. And it's like, even if it is all Mark, go get your 2 first-round picks.
Right.
Then flip them.
Because you know what? Right now, Boston probably needs it because they have nothing to trade to help their team build for the playoffs. If you trade a goalie now and get 1, 2 firsts, Well, then Boston, you just helped your ass by, potentially getting your top center, a second center. It's just wild that nothing gets done before the deadline, and then teams are rushing so desperately at the deadline to figure something out.
And I know that ownership plays a part into it, and that there's the fact that being competitive but not winning the Stanley Cup will still get you 82 sellouts in the year, right? Like, you're still going to have those ticket sales, whereas being not competitive and having draft picks is going to have less seats in the building. So you're talking about actual revenue for the ownership, but you own an NHL team to win the Stanley Cup. That's at least what I would think. And if your goal is not to chase it, then what is your goal?
Well, and what's also crazy to me is it almost seems like they're acting like your team has the possibility, or your draft pick has the possibility to be a top 10 every year as a good team. If you're a team that you're good enough to be in the playoffs every year, why aren't you doing what Tampa does and getting rid of your future first rounds, your future second rounds, your future top prospects for guys that are going to help you this second? Even if you don't win the cup that year, okay, you made the playoffs still. Your pick wouldn't have been until mid first round, late first round. Probably not going to be a starting prospect on your team for at least a few years. Okay, we didn't shit the bed yet. You still got free agency to help out with your roster. Then you have all the next season to help build your team again still. Why is it bothering you to give up those picks, to give up some of those prospects for a haul that's going to help your team potentially win a cup within the next 1, 2, 3 years?
And what's even funnier, so let's just do first round picks in general. If you go back, let's say the last 10 drafts, you'd be hard pressed to find 10 players that have played 100 NHL games from the 2014 draft to now. Of the 30 players that have been drafted on average, 31 in those years, you'd be hard pressed to find 10 from each draft who have played 100 games in the NHL, because it's not a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
It's never a guarantee that these kids are going to turn out, or you draft a Russian, he stays in Russia. You draft a Swede and they stay in Sweden longer, right? It's just never a guarantee that they turn out to be good. It's a hope, but you're looking at John Gibson, Jeremy Swayman, Linus Ullmark, and you have a guaranteed starting goaltender, and they just go, but our 24th overall pick
future
could be a franchise. Yeah, it's like, what is the franchise? What's the future of the franchise if you're not winning now?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, Boston has nothing compared to stock right now. Your best move is to move on from Jeremy Swayman, get those first round back. Get a decent prospect, because their farm team even has nobody. Fabian Lysell, their top. Okay, and Matt Patra, he just came up, but other than that, you can't really name on one hand the amount of good prospects on Boston's farm. So you kind of have to deal them, I think, if you want to look for more future compensation.
And I guess the thing is too, if you get to the playoffs and you choose Swayman, let's say Swayman's your goalie, and it's third round and someone slides into his knee and takes him out, and you lose him the rest of the way, that's hockey. And you're like, man,
it
happens. Really could use Linus Ullmark right now. But if the player you got who replaced Ullmark was literally helping you get to where you are anyways, it's like, you have to take the gamble. And I hate Boston. I want them to lose, but this is just something they should be looking into for a desperate team.
Well, you know what? Boston's already exceeded everyone's expectations. No one expects Boston
first in the league right now.
No one expected Boston to even be a playoff team this year.
Well, they're second, just 1 point behind Vancouver, just barely.
Oh, fair enough.
But you're right. They're first in the East by 7 points. Florida and New York Rangers have 60 points. New York leads their division, and Florida's in second. And Boston's 7 points ahead of both of them, and they all have played 46 games. They're dominating.
So, I mean, even if they aren't, caring to build their team, like to get a top center for their team, like, and they just say they trade Swayman or Allmark and they get a couple firsts out of it. You know, maybe you guys just want to keep those picks. You're still in a playoff picture.
Yeah.
And those picks would be probably around where your pick would have got you regardless, depending on the team you sent your goalie to. But, you know, why don't you just do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what do you lose? You lose one of your two goalies that are going to leave you regardless because they're both going to be like, well, we could both play like starting goaltenders on this team.
Yeah,
You might as well get something for at least one of them.
Their only saving grace is like these two have admitted that they are like inseparable. They are the complete best friends. So maybe there's a world where they don't want to leave, but you don't need two starting goaltenders in the NHL. And assets right now are what they need to get basically Elias Lindholm, who they've been talking about the most for centers. And the Calgary Flames don't turn down a trade offer for 2 first-round picks, I tell you that much, because then they can flip those to go after a roster player, right? Like those 2 picks will be flipped and flipped and flipped, and then someone will end up with 2 first-round picks to use in the drafts, but then all those teams will get a roster player and a roster player and a roster player. Which will
hey man, you should say the same thing to the New York Rangers then. They got Jonathan Quick and Igor Shesterkin.
See, that one I like though, because Jonathan Quick's at that age where all of a sudden he could just fall off a cliff.
But you know what? I think Jonathan Quick has accepted the backup goalie role. A lot of those late 30-year-olds have all accepted that they're the backup role, and you know they want that. They're like, we're getting too old and sore to be carrying the helm 30, 40 games in a season. Play me 15, 20, I'll be good.
Yep.
You know, that's all they need.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, let's jump to Ottawa here quick, because there's not much to say about Ottawa in the East as well. But you go ahead, Dally.
Well, they are 17-24. They are dead last in the Atlantic Division. They're sitting pretty in the basement. You got star players like Timmy Stützle crying after a loss. Not much good things happening around Ottawa. They got their new management in order finally there, trying to, get a lay of the land. They ain't looking too good. They got about $200,000 in cap space currently. And at deadline, they're still looking at about $275,000 in cap space. What should they do? Probably move on from Jacob Chikrin. I have also heard that 26-year-old Thomas Chabot and former QMJHL champion of the St. John Sea Dogs, D-Man Thomas, might be on the move as well at the deadline. Who knows? Could be false, could be true. Personally, I think maybe they should deal him. They got a stud in Jake Sanderson on the blue line coming up, so that could be your number one. As well, I liked your guys' thoughts earlier of, if they can't keep their players happy, like previously DeBrincat leaving for Detroit, I also could see Brady Tkachuk wanting out of Ottawa as well, because it is not a good time in Ottawa. I don't think these players are quite happy to be there. They're not winning games, and they're getting blown out by everybody else. You bring in veteran guys like Vladimir Tarasenko, Claude Giroux. What is it doing for you? What, did you want veteran presence, or did you want these guys to win you games? Because clearly it ain't doing both. It ain't doing neither, to be honest with you. Ottawa is a dumpster fire right now.
I can't believe they kept Jacques Martin as their coach. I forget who he was coaching. It must have been Buffalo. I don't know. But he has like the most wins in a franchise history for a team, and he never made the playoffs once with that team. So DJ Smith, you got rid of him. You had an open door. We just saw Patrick Waugh get hired, and you decide to keep Jacques Martin. I've never liked this guy as a coach. He just doesn't seem to be able to get the job done. Clearly, 13 years with one organization. Somehow he lasted that long, and he couldn't get the job done there. And they're in the bottom of the NHL, and you think somehow he's going to get the job done for you. There's so many better coaches out there. We've talked about it multiple times. Who's all available? Bruce Boudreau's available.
Yep.
Why are they sitting on Jacques Martin as their coach? It makes no sense to me.
They know Well, as an intern, right? I think they know they ain't doing anything this year. So until the next full season comes around, they might name a new head coach full time. But I think this is just a move to do an intern head coach for the remainder of the season. Because I ain't got to tell you what, this isn't going to be an Edmonton situation where you fire a coach beginning of the year after a shit start and then he just starts going off the rails.
They
But I
should
mean,
have.
same with Ottawa. They're in a totally different direction. They're going south rather than north. Like they're so bad. They can't get their group of guys to play well together, and the fans aren't just really behind them.
Any
They know
world
it's
that this
done.
team is under the Columbus Blue Jackets, who just yet again scratched David Juracek, like those guys are fumbling their own bag, and yet you're somehow below them, is a failure. And how they let DJ Smith hang on for obviously a month and a half, way too long, is ridiculous. But I actually do. I triggered myself there with Columbus because, yeah, they just
Might as well go
scratched
off again.
David Juracek again. They have 37 points, and they're still scratching these guys they drafted in the top 5, in the top 10, sending guys to the minors. Like, what is the Columbus Blue Jackets organization? Like, that's all I have to say. What is their organization? Because they have no idea what they're doing. Like, you suck. Just let them play hockey. Let them figure it out. Instead, they're punishing them for not playing well. And it's just like, they're never going to learn sitting in the press box or being down in the minors how to play in the NHL. They're a joke. Like, I liked Jarmo Kekalainen a couple of years ago. He made those trades. He added guys around his team. He was looking like a great GM. This whole Babcock thing and the way he's handling these prospects, get him out of there, man. He is clearly showing he has no idea how to run a team. He has no idea how to rebuild, and he's just ruining their team, in my opinion. So a little sidebar on Columbus there, but
But hey,
I'm
man, you
pissed.
claim that the fans are loyal, then the team will never leave Columbus. So just let them have this one shit year.
Yeah.
We all go
Well, they
through
didn't
it.
need more than that. They're any more. They're on a 5-year journey of crap town, at least, because they're not going to be better. They'll like it'll be when Pittsburgh doesn't have Crosby and Malkin that they'll like be ahead of Pittsburgh, and Ovechkin will be gone. That they're ahead of
Oh,
Washington.
dude,
But like,
Pittsburgh will be in that same boat with Columbus in the Metro probably the next 2 years.
well, that's what I mean. But who else are they going to be? They're not going to be ahead of Ottawa, probably, or Buffalo, or Montreal, or New Jersey, or the Islanders, or Tampa, or Detroit. And then none of the teams in the playoffs today. So it's like, what's their outlook? It's like fourth, last
Well, even
in the
Pittsburgh
next
is going to be
5 years.
probably sellers this deadline too. They got a shit record just below or just above Columbus too. So Jake Gensel
Well,
probably on the move.
they're 13 points ahead of, or sorry, 11 points ahead of Columbus with one less game played. So they're in a much better situation. At least they've won 21 games. Columbus hasn't even won 15. They just have 9 overtime losses, whereas Ottawa's won 17 games but only has 1 OT loss.
For 35 points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll jump over to the Kraken. I'm giving it the sign, seal, cross. I think the Kraken are going to fade the rest of the way out. I don't think they have a route back to the playoffs. The way Edmonton shot up, they're battling with Minnesota, who we've already admitted earlier with Spurgeon being out, they should start selling and they should drop. St. Louis should drop, and then Seattle. The battle is really going to be between the Kings, the Predators, the Coyotes, and the Flames. Are if they sell the Flames, which they should, we want the Flames to sell, then they'll fall as well. So really, it's Arizona, Nashville, and LA who are in the battle for the final playoff spot. And yeah, unfortunately, Seattle has had a good first couple of years. I don't think it's a disappointment that they're not going to make the playoffs. I think they got in a little bit earlier than they should have to begin with, had that really good success. But it's a team that is still the newest franchise, and they didn't get the team that Vegas got out the gates, and they shouldn't be expected to be winning a cup in their first 6-7 years.
Did you know this about Seattle? That they're already worth $1 billion by Forbes.
Oh, that's good.
Vegas, it took them a couple years to even reach a franchise value of $1 billion of what their net worth is. But to think that Seattle's, 2 years in, they're already worth $1 billion, that is crazy to think
But I
as an
guess
expansion team.
if you compare it though, Tampa also just finally hit $1 billion.
Yeah, but Tampa didn't
After
just come into the league.
Yeah, no, but their valuation, it didn't happen when they won their cups. It literally happened this offseason that they crossed over. It was like 1.05 billion finally for the Lightning. They just crossed it. So there's a lot of teams that aren't worth it, but I can see Seattle being a Northwest team. Makes sense. All right. Let's finish up here. We got our Battle of the Tarps segment. We have PWHL, the Professional Women's Hockey League. We rolled that in our randomizer. We have the Ottawa home jerseys versus in T-Post. We have, I didn't put their name. HKM Zvolen and their away jerseys. So let's debate these two. Whoever wants to go first.
You know what? I'm just gonna say the PWHL Ottawa only because I don't like the
ads.
You know what? I don't like the ads, and I don't like the logo at all. No, I'm just gonna go with Ottawa just because it's new, it's simple. The color scheme it's a nice color scheme with Ottawa. So
I personally, I totally agree with you, Dakpar. I mean, Ottawa, very clean, very simple. I love the color contrast, and I have a debate with this all the time with people. I'm always a fan of the diagonal lettering of jerseys. All right, I was a huge fan when Colorado did their maroon burgundy with the cross Colorado lettering. As far as this Europe team goes with all this ads, totally I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was our first Battle of the Tarps episode where we did, and that jersey alone had a lot of ads, and it's just too noisy. Even the color scheme, it's just a crap logo, no offense, just very uninteresting, and just too noisy with all the ads. But this Ottawa PWHL jersey, gotta give it props. I love it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely voting as well for the Ottawa jersey. But if there's one thing I do like on this Zvolen jersey is almost that airbrush blue on the arms. If they did more of that somehow with the rest of the jersey, I think they could have had a really good idea. The random red and white stripes underneath that on the sleeves, I think that's terrible. But if they did more with that almost spray paint airbrush paint look with the blue, I think that they really could have had something.
Like if they blended it almost?
Exactly. If they went into the chest with it, if they came over the shoulders with it, or up from the bottom, something to incorporate that airbrush look, I think that they could have been way better. But yeah, I mean, as we always know, ads, they just kill hockey jerseys. And I think that's why the NHL will never get this bad, because the fans know and the fans hate it. And it just can't get that far. But I do love the PWHL Ottawas. It's very honestly Montreal.
Montreal Alouette.
Alouettes. Yeah, you're right. Yep, the CFL team, the Montreal Alouettes. It's very much there, dark maroon and dark blue. But yeah, I think it's clean. I think it's classy. Now, I don't doubt it if next year those jerseys will have some logos on them, because they're going to need some sponsors in that league for each individual team. And they'll probably maybe even have a logo of their own team name, because they don't have team names yet. So when they get that sorted, that could be on there as well. But I think, for first jersey,
I got a prediction for this. I think these jerseys here will become a third alternate at some point when they start getting their branding and logos out there finally. I think this would be an awesome third jersey for Ottawa.
They'll become an alternate for what?
The PWHL Ottawa, these diagonal lettering. I think that these jerseys will...
Sorry, they'll become an alternate for what?
These jerseys here will become an alternate third jerseys for the PWHL teams, the diagonal lettering.
Oh, yeah.
Once they get all their branding and logos, for their homes and aways, I would love to see this as a third jersey for them, for sure.
True. So we will be putting this poll up on our all of our social media, so you can either repost or like to vote. We have our winners that are moving on. In the first bracket, we have the Merritt Centennials and their black homes versus the Winnipeg Freeze and their black homes. And now we do officially have a December Tarp of the Month champion. It is Ljubljana. So I don't know if I want to say congratulations, but I guess congrats to that jersey, because it did make it through our 4 brackets all the way to the end. So yeah, it was awesome. That was our first Tarp battle. Was Ljubljana. They were the first ones up, I think, and they made it all the way to the end. So it's awesome to see. But yeah, as always, it's going to be on our X. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on. Is it on Instagram? I don't know if we put it on Instagram. Either way, it's going to be up on our social medias. And I think that pretty much does it for episode 20 of Gameday Tarps podcast. As always, again, you can follow us on all social medias, subscribe on YouTube, watch on YouTube, and listen on Spotify, Apple Music, or any of the podcast streaming that you can listen to. So as always, thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Peace.